All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get started. So thank you all for coming out tonight to learn more about how students can make the most of their time over the summer. Once again, my name is Kim Rouse. I am the communications assistant here at College Thoughts, and it is my pleasure tonight to introduce you to Anne, who is our Next Steps coach. She'll be the one walking you through this tonight, and I look forward to hearing everything she has to say. So Anne, I'm going to go ahead and turn it right over to you.
All right, great, thanks. Hey, everybody. I'm one of the newer staff members at College Thoughts. My title, Next Step Advisor, is exactly that. You work with academic coaches to think about your tutoring, your tests, your college entrance, and then what's next. That's my world. I've spent about 30 years working on college campuses running career centers at some of the elite private liberal arts in the Northeast, and the South and the Midwest. And I also spent some time running the Career Center at Carnegie Mellon University. I've met with lots of college students, some of whom are prepared. Some of them arrive academically prepared, but not really having a whole lot of knowledge about what's beyond. Before we start, I'd like to do a very quick poll. Kim, could you pull it up? Here it is. I'd like the students and the adults in the room to both fill out this poll. At 16, or if you're younger than 16, let's pretend you are, do you or did you have a clear career path in mind? Yes or no? Okay. This doesn't surprise me. It looks like about half said, yeah, I had a career goal in mind. A little bit more said, no, not really. But almost 86% of the respondents are not doing what they thought they were going to do. Now, we've got a small group, so scientifically, I'm not sure this data would stand up to much critical thought, but this is what happens very often. We put a lot of pressure on kids, not intentionally, but to, what are you going to do when you grow up? To have an answer. What are you going to study? What are you going to do after college? And through no fault of their own, they're young. Students haven't had a whole lot of chance to figure out what's out there. They haven't lived long enough. They haven't experienced enough things. Where do they pick up career information? They pick it up from family, maybe close friends of the family, reading, movies, social media. It's a pretty limited exposure and very little of it's hands-on. Along with the academic opportunities, which your college counselors can talk to you about, your college coaches can talk to you about, I'm going to spend some time tonight talking about summer experience more broadly. I'm going to pull up my slides. I have a nice bar across the top. Sorry, people. I'm going to back out and I'll try it again. It's late and it's been a long day. Why is experience important for students to get over the summer? Lots of reasons. To try new things, to get a sense of what's out in the world. I have a map over my, that's very interesting. There we go. Sorry. Technology, even PowerPoint this time of night, is not my forte. Experience can be anything. It's what we normally would think of, experience. We want experience because we want our students to have a broader sense of themselves, develop more confidence. We want them to look good on paper. We want them to have every advantage we could possibly give them. But the advantages can come in different forms and at different times. Sometimes our students pick up information unintentionally, or pick up information, yes, unintentionally, that can affect their long-term decisions. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Honestly, most of our youth are pretty much lockstep heading to college from junior high on. There is a MapQuest document essentially saying, do this, do this, do this, take this, take this, take this, take 3 years of this, take 4 years of that. You've seen them, you have them in your house. They're busy. They're on their academics, they're on their athletics, they're on their extracurricular activities. There's not much time to think about much, particularly what's going to happen after they get into college. I have come to believe through the 30 years of working with students that the more breadth the students are able to gather in their teen years, the more curious they are about the opportunities that may come up for them in the future. They'll gather more information, and with more information, they will make better choices. Choices that they feel good about. But that doesn't mean picking the thing. What kinds of things are summer experiences? Well, you know them. Academic enrichment programs, assisting on a research team, starting a small business, working at a camp, summer academic advancement, courses, summer courses, jobs, shadowing, internships, doing career-related research, academics, travel, outward bound, and on and on. Often, the academic angle is the piece that gets the most attention. Having sat on admissions committees and read, probably 1,000 admission folders over my career, I know that other kinds of experience are also highly valued by the admissions evaluators. So what? A lot of the career decision-making and looking for options is parallel to the college decision-making process. Your coaches will help your student gather information about what's out there, about themselves, what might be a good fit. They start with a very long list and they start to narrow down and choose. And hopefully, if the choice is well done, there's not a whole lot of agonizing afterwards. They've done the research, they've made the best choice they could at the time. And that's what we want for them. I advocate we do the same for them when it comes to career options and directions. The model that nearly every career center I've ever known uses is this one for decision-making. And it's, again, practically parallel to the decision-making process for college choice. The first piece is you get to know yourself. What's most important to you? Now, in reality, who we are at 16 and who we are at 25 are different, but not really. We become more ourselves as we have more experiences and grow in confidence. It's kind of a weird thing, but I believe it's true. Once the self-assessments are done, it's time to start exploring options. But instead of colleges, we're looking at industries and job titles. We're looking at what you can do with what kinds of degrees. Then it's time to start getting focused. maybe try some things, set some goals, and eventually make a decision and then go for it. Those of us who have ever worked and looked for a job, we know we go through this. In fact, we go through it multiple times over the course of our working lives. It looks like this generation of students is going to go through this many more times than we did. What the thought leaders are saying now is that this generation of college students may hold 6 to 8 different jobs by the time they hit their early 30s. 6 to 8. Wow, that's a lot. The good news is you don't have to hit it right the first time out. We can talk with our students about giving a little bit of grace and using time before, during, and after college to keep testing themselves against the world. There are some students who know exactly what they want to do, and they've built their lives heading in that direction. Many, though, aren't really sure. Well, how about if I do what I'm passionate about? Do what you're passionate about. So there's a study not too long ago at Stanford, and only 20% of the respondents said they had a passion that they could follow. Okay, so that really doesn't work. Moving through this process, thinking about summer experiences, winter break experiences, where they might volunteer, even the kind of extracurriculars they may want to get involved in, is a way to work through this decision-making process and get better at it over time. Decision-making is a skill. We get better over time. And I believe it helps to have a model that can help guide us through the process in a way that makes sense. Monopoly board. I've made a version of this I call Careeropoly. It doesn't really roll off the tongue. I've made a paper version of this for both high school and college. Each side of the board is a year. So first year, second year, third year, fourth year, with different activities that students can do each of the years. The corners are summer experiences, all pointed to building experience, gathering information, sparking curiosity, so that when it's time to make some of those decisions, they have information. Information's power. This is a different view, really, than climbing a career ladder, where you get on a path and you move forward. The world of work's changed. This generation of students, it's going to be more like off-roading. They will move in many different directions, sideways, backwards, forwards, jumping into a parallel universe. It's completely different. It already is. So being well equipped to move in a world that's going to be continuously changing makes a lot of sense. We do this over and over again. I know some people who are doing the same process, but they're thinking about their retirement years. Now that they have time to themselves to do what they want to do, what's it going to be? An encore career, redesigning their lives. This is all pretty straightforward for those of us who lived for a while, but it's probably kind of new for our students. Perhaps at your table, you talk more frankly about these kinds of decisions and how you made them and the mistakes you made and what you learned from those mistakes. But with everyone running in lots of different directions, it's kind of tough to have those conversations. I'd like to tell you two stories about why I am absolutely certain that getting broadening experience and trying different things is important for young adults. One example, I was working at a very selective liberal arts college. A student comes to me, it's always wanted to be a doctor. Wanted to be a doctor since he was a little guy. And that made everybody happy. Oh, he's going to be a doctor. He's good in science, always good with people. He's going to be a doctor. And the path was cleared for this young guy to try everything there was related to going into practicing medicine. He was excited, really excited. He had the answer. His friends were not sure what they wanted to do, but he knew what he wanted to do. The whole family was behind it. And then he got into a great college with a great pre-med program. And the pre-med classes were a lot tougher than he thought they were going to be. And he struggled to maintain the high grades that he would need to be able to get into med school. So he started cutting back on some of the outside of class things that help make the college experience that we think of in terms of a residential college. Managed to get through those classes, a lot of sweat and some tears, and then realized that he was going to have to almost start over again studying for the MCAT. During those last couple of years of college, he spent time with doctors and shadowing. He'd done that before, but he also heard his friends talking about other kinds of things that they were doing, and went to a couple of information panels and presentations by employers, and realized there were a lot of other things out there. I only knew this when he came to me in tears. He wasn't sure he wanted to be a doctor anymore, that he didn't want to disappoint his family by not pursuing that. Everybody was proud of him. Everybody believed in him. He felt some shame for not wanting to pursue something that everyone knew was prestigious and felt was prestigious. He was in tears because it was coming on winter break and he needed to tell his family. My heart went out to him. Immediately after break, he came back, came in my office, closed the door. He had a big smile on his face. Never quite know what's going to happen then. He said he finally screwed up his courage, talked to his parents, and said, I'm not sure I want to do this. I think I want to try a couple of other things before I really commit. And his parents said, oh, thank goodness. We never thought medicine was going to be a real strong area for you, but you said you wanted to do it. And so we wanted to support you any way we could. Whoa. Another story comes from a young woman that I've met recently. She's probably in her late 20s, early 30s. She was good in math. She's a good student. But when she was a kid, she was good at math. And what she heard pretty frequently is, oh, you're good at math. You should be an engineer. I've got my answer. I'm going to be an engineer. Everybody else is wondering what they're going to do, but I'm going to be an engineer. And people got behind her because that's what she wanted to do. Got to college, went to a great engineering school. Did okay academically because she was a good student. Landed a primo job right out of school, and then spent several years doing engineering and being with engineers, and has just in the past year and a half realized she really doesn't like engineering and probably never did. but she was determined to do it and be good at it because that's what she had decided she was going to do when she was 8 or 9 years old. I think we do a disservice to our kids when those kinds of things happen. The different kinds of experiences that our kids can have that will help them grow and move through this cycle many times. They're broad, almost anything counts. Worked with a student who was from a small-ish town. I was contacted by parents who said, would he be better off working in the bank because he wants to go into finance? He really wants to go back and be a counselor at the summer camp he was at for a long time, but we really think he, if he's going to be in finance, he really needs to be working at a bank. That will look good. I called a financial recruiter who came to campus to recruit for internships and jobs. And the recruiter laughed. He said, I'd much rather have somebody do a summer camp experience, overnight residential camp, overseeing kids, being part of a team, planning projects. Heck yeah. I mean, that's a huge responsibility and demonstration of independence and self-confidence. That's a candidate I'd be very interested in talking to. What looks good? It depends. Some of the things that students can do beyond the academic programs, the enrichment programs, so you want to be a lawyer, come to DC and spend a week with us at Georgetown programs. Those are all great. And employers are saying our students need more of the soft skills to be able to move within different circles outside of academic settings, to have some of the soft skills, negotiating, persuading, learning what professionalism is. In some cases, learning how to properly answer a phone, take messages, transfer phones. I mean, we think of those as fairly mundane if we do them all the time. Many of the students that I work with really don't know how to leave a phone message in a professional way. They don't use their phones. They text. It may sound minor or silly, but confidence in those kinds of out in the world skills are really important for students to bring with them into college and through college. We don't want them to wander, but we don't want them to have a lot of pressure of confusion. What we want is, I believe, help them gather data points that they can start building on, data points that will help them shift their direction a little here, a little there. The fellow who wanted to go to med school had lots of med experience, but he hadn't done anything with another part of his school life that he really loved, which is the creative and artistic side. He wanted to do a little bit more with that, looking at design, graphic design, moving into what at the time was still relatively new, the online design websites and all and such, which are so old school in some ways. But at the time, it was new. It was a newer field, and he never thought about how he could use his art skills. Well, you can't use your art skills because you can't make a living doing art. True for most of us. And he realized that, but he didn't need to leave it completely behind because there's so much variety out there in the world of work. This is more of a scene of what the job market is like. I don't know if those of you who played Chutes and Ladders, but my grandparents and my parents, I'm older, they just moved along. 20 to 21 to 22 to 23. Then there were programs that could let people jump past blue ribbon training programs coming out of college that General Mills and Procter & Gamble would offer. Now students are moving differently. They're moving almost sideways, 60 to 64. They're jumping line. Sometimes they might be going backwards. The world of work is huge. Here are the basic industries. If you have a piece of paper in front of you and a pen, I'd like you to take 30 seconds and write down all of the job titles or career fields that you can think of. I'm actually going to take that away. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Go. Five seconds. Oh, stop. Students first. In the chat, would you please write down the number of titles you've got on your paper? I realize that not all of you have paper and it's a small group. But if you did that, I'd be very curious to hear how many that you got. Kim, are we getting any responses? In my experience, first, second, and third year students can come up with maybe 6 or 7 job titles fairly quickly. And then it starts getting harder. Teacher, doctor, nurse, vet, business person, librarian. Now, I probably was much slower than some of the students who are on tonight, but we just don't have a chance to know that much. Parents, you've been able to do a lot more. I want to see if there are any questions at this point before I go on. Can you help me out, Kim?
Certainly. All right.
Actually, the chat's disabled, so that's not going to help.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it's a pretty small group. If you would like to take yourself off mute, or Kim, if you could take everybody off mute, we can just have a conversation. So jump in, speak up. How many titles do you have on your paper? Aisha. Or maybe not. Daniel, how about you? What did you end up with? Or Penny?
I had 9.
9. Are you a student or
No, I'm a parent.
Oh, come on, Daniel. 9.
Go.
Well, 30 seconds wasn't all that long, I suppose. Penny, how about you? Or Rhonda?
I'm sorry, I had 10.
Oh, good for you. Sharon? Tara?
Yeah, I had 9 as well. I didn't do that well.
11 for me.
It was kind of out in left field kind of question. But is it any wonder that our kids feel stressed trying to figure out what they want to do? I was a liberal arts major. What are you going to do with that major? Anything you want. And that was supposed to be reassuring. If I knew what I wanted, I wouldn't have this problem. If I knew what was out there, I'd have a better chance of knowing what I wanted. Thinking about the college decision-making process fitting in with the summer experience process. We're talking about trying to blend a couple of things into an extremely busy life. Juniors who are getting started on their college applications, I'd say first and foremost, talk with your college coach and see what he or she has to say. They have their your full portfolio in front of them. They will know what makes the most sense to give you a balanced presentation and also have a portfolio and admissions folder that really, really tells your story. Really, really tells your story. For younger students, perhaps the summer can have a couple of different experiences. Maybe there is that academic program or the program at Georgetown for possible lawyers. A summer job, even if it's part-time, can make a difference. We don't want our kids to have to work. We want to give them other opportunities. Interning, even shadowing people in different professions is helpful. The pre-med kids spend time shadowing doctors or dentists or vets. I don't know how much shadowing goes on with people that are looking for work that may be writing focused or may be more quantitatively oriented. Providing options will help them grow. I am going to stop and just take your questions at this point.
Okay, and so we've got someone asking, based on your experience, what should juniors focus on this late in the game?
Depending on the other commitments, juniors can look at what's on their plates and talk with a college coach. If there's a chance to get some even information interviewing in before the summer, it would be helpful. Information interviewing, we do it when we're looking for jobs. Students can do it too. How did you get into your line of work? What do you like about it? What do you do all day? What did you study? What do you hate about your job? What surprised you about this work? What do you think you'll do next? What did you do before this? All of those very basic informational interview questions lays down a groundwork for, I never knew this thing really existed. I like this part of it, but not that part of it. What's it called if I do more of this and less of that? Those information interviews can happen on the weekends. They can happen over the April vacation, even if your family is going to travel. Your college counselor will be able to best tell you what to do for juniors who are in the stage of prepping for college. Getting exposure and experience doesn't have to take weeks or months. It can be fast. Information is power. Any other questions? Somebody asked me once what I do as a career coach. And I told them that I was sort of like a buyer's agent in real estate. I talk with first-time homeowners or aspiring homeowners to try to find out who they are, what they like, what's essential for them. What would be the icing on the cake? And then we go looking. We don't buy houses based on curb appeal alone. We go in, we look around, we open the cabinets, we mess around. And then we go back and maybe bring some people with us, and we turn on the faucets. We test it out before we make a commitment. What kind of experience makes sense? It's all good. What makes it best, though, is when you have a chance to process it. I didn't like working for that nonprofit. It's another story. I had a nonprofit internship. I didn't like it. I won't work for a nonprofit ever again. Well, tell me about that. Well, I really liked the work I was doing, but my boss was just insane. She couldn't keep things organized. She micromanaged, blah, 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 blah. Like, okay, so if I'm hearing you, you were having trouble with the leadership, but you really liked the work. Oh yeah, I loved the work. Let's talk about that some more then. Developmentally, it takes a few more years for our brains to start being able to do some of the differentiation and balancing of contradictory information. We can help our kids with that by talking with them about the different experiences they've had. There are many do-overs. Every information interview is a do-over. Your kids are curious. Students, you're curious. You wouldn't be in the schools you're in, doing the work you're doing, looking at the colleges you're looking at, if you weren't curious. Your curiosity is a superpower. It will lead you places that will make you stronger. All of the experiences are good, even if they're really unpleasant or miserable. It's something called falling forward. I don't know if that's a phrase you know. We think that failing is bad. Yeah. We learn from our failures. Yeah. But it's true. If we can think about missteps or slightly misguided moves as falling forward, we will continue to dare to try new things. The two stories I told you about the woman in engineering and the fellow in pre-med, they measured once and cut once. I'd love to see more students in high school and in college measuring twice, really thinking about a variety of options before making that one choice. Because a question for students that find liberal arts too vague, are there larger schools that make it easier to change majors or try subjects in depth, like try nursing, logistics, or engineering? That's a great question. There are different ways to get to each of those things. Someone can apply to nursing school as a graduating senior. There may be some schools where you do 2 years of general study and then move into a nursing school. There are programs that give you a 4-year degree with some nursing program, and then you get a master's with another year or 2 afterwards. There are a lot of different ways of getting from here to there. So yeah, there's a chance, there's a good chance. And most advisors, other than in engineering, perhaps, and maybe a couple other majors, will often advise incoming students to take a variety of courses, to look around, to shop around, to broaden their sense of what the possibilities are. There are opportunities to do testing in the summer. One of the stories I love best, other than the philosophy major who was a professional gambler in Vegas, that was a fun story. One of the students that I worked with landed the best job on Wall Street, the best job on Wall Street. She was a French major. She only took a handful of economics classes and no finance classes. But she took advantage of other things that were around her to build a portfolio, to try some things out to see if she'd like it. There are lots of opportunities to try and grow. All experience is good. Yes, it may mean staying an extra semester to finish up requirements. It may mean getting a little bit out of sequence to do a credit internship for a class. Oh yeah, you can do credit internships for a lot of places for and once students are juniors and seniors, it's often encouraged at some of the larger universities. Engineering is the tough one. The engineering schools that I know of really start people and track them fairly early. Some might have 1 year of general studies and then you have to choose. That's tough. Choosing whether or not you want to be a chemical engineer after only having 1 or 2 chemistry classes, whew, that's asking a lot, but that's what we do. Any other questions? Is there a Job Corps type of program for high school kids? You know, there is something like a Job Corps for teens and young adults. I think it's called the Student Conservation Association. They do a lot of outdoor work, and they also help fill in areas that have been declared disaster areas. They help supplement the other work that's being done by NGOs. There are some, I know of one program, I'm not sure they're still in existence, but I'd be happy to look it up, who gave students opportunities sort of as a gap year in high school or gap year just after high school. And in the 4 quarters of the year, they did 4 different internships. And they helped line those up and helped facilitate the interaction with the organization so that the student got a good experience and actually was an intern rather than a coffee runner or a filer. And perhaps you could create something like that for yourselves. Can a student spend 2 weeks with an uncle at the workplace, 2 weeks with an older cousin, a week in Georgetown or Yale, and then a week off to just read and hang out and read some more just for fun? All of those will help your student, will lead your student to be more confident in the decisions that they're going to have to make going on beyond, in through college and beyond college. My view on applying and deferring, it wasn't an option back in the day. It seems more possible now. Can it really be done? If you can do it, does it make you much older than classmates? So it ends up being negative. I have a little experience with this. Kim, you may be able to answer this better. I think a year of difference may not make much difference. There were at one point, and Kim, again, you probably can do this one better than I can, would put people on a wait list, or they would accept them but not have enough room for them, and they would encourage them to take the year to intern or travel. And so
Definitely.
it was built into the admissions system. Kim, can you talk a little bit more?
Sure. So deferring for a year has become fairly common, especially kind of in this post-pandemic world that we're in. A lot of students who end up waitlisted, what they'll end up doing is taking a gap year, using that time to gain more experience in their field, and then potentially reapplying if that's what they choose to do. So it's not so much that you'll be so much older than your classmates. It's usually about a year or two. So it wouldn't end up being a negative. That being said, if your student doesn't want to go the gap year route, that's entirely fine. Colleges are built so that if students need to take a break, it's kind of built into that admissions that there are allowances for that.
Well, I think the phrasing of that was interesting. Take a break. I agree that many of our students do need to take a break because they are on a treadmill that is very steep and turned up on the highest speed possible. And they arrive at college, and I've seen this far more times than I would ever want to. They arrive their freshman year burnt out. And they may be academically ready for college, but psychologically, they need some time away to recalibrate. Sometimes these are the students that end up taking medical leaves for their mental or physical health, drop out after a year because they haven't been able to find the motivation to get the work done because they're spent. I would, not surprisingly, recommend that if there's going to be a gap year, that it be planful. What's the goal of the gap year? Could it be more than taking a break? Could it be working and earning some money for the sophomore year study abroad experience? Could it be creating 4 internships that happen over the quarter, or 2 internships and some travel? Intentionality, along with the curiosity, will set your student up, I believe, with thousands of data points that are guiding me, will set them up for confidence and success. They are going to change their minds. They're going to change their majors. At least 2/3 change their majors a couple of times. They're going to try jobs and find out it's not what they thought they were. They're going to try a job and be laid off 6 months later and have to start over again. We want them to be confident. We want them to have the skills to be able to do the job searches on their own with our support and knowing that there are a lot of options for them. 9th graders. I think a 9th grader can do some volunteering in a thoughtful way. Some of it, again, is the intentionality of talking about what are you seeing? What are you doing? What do you think about it? What do you like? What's challenging? What do you wish was different? It might not be easy for the parent to be the one asking the question. As you all know, there are some interesting dynamics happening through adolescence. Perhaps there's somebody outside of the family who can help your student, tease apart the experience and develop some of the skills there of looking at a situation and weighing different pieces of it. Going back to the student who said, I will never work in a nonprofit, but I love the work that I did. It was her boss, not the nonprofit. Anything else? I'm sorry, just going back to the ninth grader. In the board that the Monopoly board that I described, with one side being each side being a year of high school, and then another board with each side being a year of college, they build on each other. So the ninth graders perhaps get a wide spattering of information. And then pick a few to try a little bit deeper during a break or the next summer, but still add a couple of new things in. It will become clear to them what feels good and feels satisfying and what doesn't. I hope they would grow to trust that. And they need to test it frequently. You're going to get phenomenal direction and advice from the staff at College Thoughts. As the next step person, I'm here to help you, your student, think about what might be a good next step for them to explore beyond college, beyond the academic setting, beyond the classroom, to help them find different paths, different directions that might work for them. And as they get different experiences, each data point will move them closer to a decision, closer to the career path that they'll be happiest in, and they will change it several times. There are no guarantees other than we want our kids to be happy, and we're going to do everything we can to help that happen. And helping them get a lot of different understanding, about a lot of different fields, I think is a piece of what is missing in our education system and is forgotten sometimes by the rest of us. Question more about the gap year in terms of getting career experience to be able to make a better choice of major. Absolutely. Sorry about that. I missed that last question. Again, I would most likely recommend more than one thing be done during the gap year for career experience. The med school gets to decide who gets into med school, not the applicant. And it's always possible that the job somebody is hoping to have will no longer exist in 6 years. The career experience that may hold a lot of value, though, is getting out and testing oneself against the larger world, the world of work, the world of adults. Your kids are smart, they can learn almost anything. Those softer skills don't get learned in a classroom. They're out and about. Any other questions? As next step advisor, I can help your student with some standard assessments, career assessments, which I would help you and your student take with a grain of salt. We could talk about building a path towards 1 or 2 summer experiences. I can help take the activities list that's being built for the college application and turn it into a resume that could be used for an internship. And I regularly help people with interview skills, practice interviewing. At some point, as you're thinking about next steps, please remember that College Thoughts is also thinking about next steps for your student as well. I'm happy to stay, Kim, for another 5 or 10 minutes if people want to actually talk and ask questions rather than use the chat.
Absolutely. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Like Anne said, we will be around for a few more minutes if you have any questions. Otherwise, we will be sending out this recording and a follow-up message. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you guys so much.
Good night.
Hi, I was just curious about the sports.
Mhm.
Like if you're an average sports person,